begin with the black pieces against Suhai, rated 1358. So we're skipping a little bit here, but we have an exchange Caro Kann on the board. A little preview of what's to come at the 1350 level. And then he throws this check, which I don't think is particularly threatening. So I'm just going to develop my knight towards the center, block it. Very natural move. You could have blocked with your bishop as well. He now plays c3, creating the pawn chain and possibly strengthening the pin. That's fine. I'm just going to develop another piece and see what his intentions are. Okay, he just develops a knight towards the center. Makes sense. If I kick the bishop, he might go queen a4, pinning the pawn. It's possible. Let's develop our bishop. We could break the pin. Could also attack the knight. Let's just break the pin. Now there's this pressure. It's completely meaningless. Queen here, completely meaningless. His bishop is probably better placed on d3. So he castles, which is fair enough. And now that that this is connected, I'm going to play a6 because queen a4 no longer pins the pawn. So now he kind of has to do something with the bishop. So he goes backwards. We could gain space and kick it, but that might help him go to a better square. It's possible. But I'm going to play a very simple game where I hem in my bishop. I play e6, and I show that this bishop is actually fine, even if it's not over here on f5 or on g4. It does not have to be, especially if your opponent put his on the wrong side. So let's do this to hasten our king safety and development. We just want to move this pawn to get the bishop out so we can castle. So he develops the other bishop, pins our knight, undefends the b pawn. But it makes sense. I think now is a good time to get in the free luft for our king, h6. If he takes, he helps develop our queen. If he doesn't take, we got in a free move and we can go again. He takes, which develops another piece of ours. And our queen is pretty nice here. Now that he doesn't have a dark square bishop, it's kind of annoying for him because we have the dark square bishop and the queen. Maybe they can coordinate. He develops his other knight, his last minor piece. It makes sense. At any moment we can kick the bishop, but I'm keeping it in the pocket. Instead, I'm continuing my development. Bishop d6, aiming at the center, aiming at the king. Controlling the dark squares. He no longer has a dark square bishop. We're ready to castle. And queen b3, we can attack the bishop. So he plays g3 to try to gain some control over the dark squares, maybe shut down the diagonal. But it also weakens the light squares in return. And the queen does have some pressure on the knight, not that it matters right this instant. I think castling makes a lot of sense. Getting our king to safety. Developing our rook. He retreats the bishop voluntarily, which makes sense because what was it really doing there? But it doesn't threaten anything. We don't have a knight on f6, so we have to not get checkmated on h7, but that shouldn't be hard. What else? Okay, I think we're going to play b5, b4, and just start a minority attack. This is usually, one of the main plans in these structures and in the Caro Kann exchange. You basically run this pawn up the board to attack his pawns. Pawns attacking other pawns. This will open up that square for these two pieces and my rooks to create pressure. So he plays b3, but this voluntarily weakens the c3 pawn, and the whole point of my minority attack is to create this weakness, but he just created it for us. So now we want to try to take advantage of it, I guess. We should put a rook on the c-file, opposite the bishop, opposite the c-pawn, and then we should move our knight. If we play b4 and he pushes past, so if we play b4 and he pushes past, then we don't want that to happen. So he moves his queen, but that undefends the bishop. So that creates certain tactics where the rook can take the bishop and the knight can use these two squares because the bishop's undefended. So in light of that, we take, he takes, you don't want to take with the queen, but we can go here now, because if he takes, that's really bad for him. If he doesn't take, like if he goes back, then what are we doing with our knight there? It can't go in here, so what's the point? That's annoying. We do have bishop here, which is super annoying because it stops a rook going from the c-file, and it threatens to go in here with winning material, and that's very hard to stop. And it no longer has a great purpose here. It's nice to watch this one square on e5, but considering we're trying to attack on the queen side, that move makes a lot of sense. a5, a4 also makes sense. But I'm going to play with the pieces, since I have a much worse understanding of pawns. Okay, so he traps my bishop. Didn't even consider that. But two main downsides. One, it encourages me to do the move I wanted, which wins material. And two, that pawn is hanging. Before I was calculating, if I go knight b4 and he moves his bishop, why is my knight here? But now I'm winning a pawn, that's why my knight's here. But even having said that, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to improve my piece for free. I'm going to take the very important c3 pawn, and once this pawn disappears, these two pawns lost their protector and the entire position collapses. And that's why I decided to play with my piece and not my pawn, because pawn moves can easily lose you the game. And they have lost me many games. So he goes here, attacking my bishop. But this pawn's hanging, this pawn's hanging. It's just a weird move that doesn't make sense. I can trade it for the knight if I had to escape danger. Very weird move. I can even defend the bishop by moving the knight because the rook protects. So there's so many different options, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the central pawn, hit the queen, hit the bishop, hit the rook, force matters. He'll probably have to take, bringing my queen in. Another defender of the bishop. The b pawn is still hanging. The knight is hanging. The b pawn's hanging. His bishop is loose behind it. A lot of things going wrong. We're up 2 pawns with a completely winning position. And this bishop on d7, we didn't need it. It does look bad, I agree. But for the time being, that's okay. So he moves his knight and hits our queen, which is fine. It doesn't threaten anything, so let's just, I guess, try to instigate trades. We have to move our queen anyway. So I'm just going to go here because it comes with tempo. If he moves the queen, we get the turn back. If he trades, we stick a nice rook in here. Maybe. Or maybe we just take with the pawn. Oh no, our bishop's hanging. I was going to say take with the pawn to open our bishop, but we can always just push e5 and sack it. Let's take with the rook to protect our bishop. And this is hanging. He goes here, attacking the rook and the bishop, saying, hey, if you retreat your rook to protect, I'll take, deflect your rook, and then take the other bishop. The downside is the piece hangs. So that doesn't work. It was a good idea, but 1350s should not be hanging peas like this, just randomly moving into a square while it's hanging. He attacks my bishop while his bishop is attacked in return, but I'm not going to trade. I'm going to solidify my bishop on a square protected by a pawn, so it supports my central pawn thrusts. Now he attacks my rook, but I will happily move my rook. That's not a big deal. Let's go here, because it's the only square available on his side, on the c file. So he takes, but this comes with a double attack, so I don't like it by him. Okay, he protects the pawn but not the rook, so that doesn't make any sense. Priorities. And there you go. And the bishop never got out. But let's go through the game. We get a Caro Kann on the board. You guys definitely already know what that is. And then he exchanges pawns, which equalizes the game because it's symmetrical, except for E pawn here, C pawn here. But I mean, if you get to choose, you'd probably rather have the central pawn than the flank pawn, so that works for me. He gives us this check, development in center, and then development in center, and then development. It's not so much center, it's just about breaking the pin. I mean, it does affect the center by breaking the pin, but that's not the purpose. And then we just have a free improving move. If he takes, he's giving up his bishop, which would be good for us because he wants this bishop since it's a strong one with his pawn structure. So it's just a nice free move for us that gets our minority one move closer to activation for free. And then we just center, develop. Another free improving move. If he takes, again, giving up the bishop. He takes, force move. It's an equal game. And then we just develop and center. King safety and development. And everything's normal. We didn't do anything special, neither did he. But he did give up his bishop, so I'd rather be black here because of the dark square bishop. And then we just go b5 because we're done with the minor pieces, right? You don't have a pawn break because your structure's super weak on d5. So since you don't have a pawn break, your only real pawn break is b4. So you go for the minority. Maybe you can put rooks on the c file or b file. But we just start with the b pawn. And they say this is a blunder, which is crazy because it goes from an even game to minus 2.3. That's almost a piece. I don't think I took advantage of this worth a piece. Yeah, what's the exact... What are they screaming to play? Rook AC8. But I played rook FC8. Is it that much of a difference, really? Okay, so we play rook FC8 because we're not engines. And... Okay. All the lines are confusing me. Oh yeah, and then we just play with the pieces and say we're a lot better. It's impossible for you to protect the c3 pawn. But computer says is just a much stronger way to play involving pushing the central pawn. They want you to play in the center. Normally you don't do this in this structure, but it must have a concrete line here. So if I go here, he probably has to take. And then I guess we're just controlling it so well. Also, his queen is pinned. And if we take, he probably won't. I don't know what he should do here. I wouldn't take if I was him and line this up. So what's white supposed to do? They want him to take still? But then bishop takes? Yeah, and it's -3, so this is terrible. But if he doesn't take, let's just say he goes, I don't know, king up for a second, just for argument's sake. Oh, rook takes c3 and the position collapses. And your weak pawn doesn't matter. So rook takes c... Well, okay, let's play a better move. I don't know, I guess it's just super forcing and stuff. And the engine can see so far that it's like, oh, this is just winning. But I'm just a mere mortal, so I develop. And it's a 10-minute game. And then I play this move. So this is the one mistake they give me, bringing it to 20 centipon and 92 accuracy. But I think this move is amazing because what's his best move? Rook ad1. So they want him to move this rook out of the way. And if I attack the pawn, what's his response though? Queen d3, knight e5. Well, knight e5, that's not a big deal. You can drop the bishop back. But queen d3, don't you just... I mean, you don't want to defend it with the queen because the rook's going to coordinate. You go with the minority attack. I probably would have just played g6 here, to be honest, because of the battery. He would have had one more move. I have to go here. Then if he tries to trap me, you can break it down. Yeah, I don't know. Still looks really nice for black. But I guess e5 somehow is better. That makes sense, though. So let's go with the game. So we go here. He pushes past, immediately blundering because of this pin. But we improve a piece for free because we're going to take all his stuff anyway. It's -3. Now it's -4. Free stuff. Free stuff. Force move. Force move. Force move. Free stuff. So once it's forced, it makes your life easy because you know what you have to do. And free stuff is easy because you know it's free. And then you kind of string that together to get your game. So at what moment was it again? So here. I have 3 things on the center. And he has 3 defenders. And if I break it open, he has to take. He doesn't have to take. A4? But what happens when I push? Sack a piece, yeah. Well, that's why I said you have to take. If your best move is to sack a piece, just take. And then we get our knight in, which is what I would play. So it's just a matter of evaluating this position. Because it's easy to see. I wouldn't expect him to take the knight, even though that they say it's his best move. If you just let... Oh, this pawn is still hanging. That's so annoying. I guess that's... Maybe that's why, because he can't really protect it and his position collapses. So what if... What if instead of this pawn push, which is a blunder, he plays the same set of moves? So like, what did he play? He played... He had his queen here. I had my rook here. He had... What else did he have in there? I don't remember. Maybe he had a rook over. No, he didn't. I don't know. Let's just say he does something random. Are we still pushing? It's listed there, but it's not good. It's just a like equal position. Doesn't do anything here. Okay, so the whole reason, like I said, you normally don't do this and ruin this structure and weaken your own and give yourself an isolated d5 pawn for no reason. But because he played b3 and it opens up this attack immediately that he can't do anything about, his position kind of collapses. So it's very specific. So that's good to know. I could remember that. Because now if you go and he takes and you take, you're not actually threatening anything. So if he just lifts his king or whatever, you just have to improve your pieces. And this guy's weak in the center, d5. And why'd you do this? Yeah, that's what I'm used to. Yeah. Okay. But because he made this weakness, now we do it. And the difference is you lift your king up, boom. Bishops hit, knights hit thrice, and you can double rooks. Easy game. That makes some sense. Still requires calculation, and you have to be willing to sack this pawn, period, but it opens up the bishops, gives you an active rook, makes a lot of sense. So, alright, glad we looked at that. Um, Something to keep in mind next time. And also you can see just how weakening a move like b3 is. It immediately went from zeros to plus to minus 2.3. It's not going to happen every time they play b3, but it gives you the knowledge of how weakening it can be towards the c file, right? So hopefully you kind of picked up on what I was looking at right now.